Dixon and Representative Gilliard with a group of young people, and I can tell you, from my perspective, that's where we have to spend the majority of our energy. We've got to get these young people to recognize that this life that they see many times in movies, they hear about on music videos, and they hear people talking about, is not what we want for them. You know, the fast, easy money is not what we want for them. And I can tell you the experiences that I've had with people who have changed their lives, it hasn't been because somebody gave them a lot of money or gave them the Cadillac SUV or gave them gold jewelry. It's because things have come into their life that has had a meaning. And, you know, I'm going to talk about a couple things today, predominantly violence in the community and domestic violence. I want to start off, though, telling you a story about change. And I think this is so important to be told at this particular venue with this particular lady here. I met her son several months ago, and my first encounter with him was on King Street about 2 o'clock in the morning one weekend, and he came by and he was conversing with me, and we had about a 15-minute conversation about what was going on King Street. And then about 20 minutes later, over the radio, I heard that there had been an assault and that an individual had been stabbed and cut several times. And they gave the description, and I knew immediately that it was the same young man that I was speaking to on King Street. I knew him as Casey at that time. I know him now as Desmond Casey. And what he did is he intervened in a domestic violence situation that very likely would have been a murder had he not done that. And the reason he did it was because it was the right thing to do. It wasn't because he knew the people that were involved in this situation. It wasn't because he had anything to do with the people that were involved. He was walking down the street and saw this occurring and intervened and ended up almost losing his life to save somebody else that he did not know. And why I think that story is so important is not because now Desmond has changed and is in a training program. He's got 2 jobs he's working on. I can stay in contact with him quite frequently, along with Butch and some other people, just to encourage him to continue to go forward and do the positive things that he's doing now. And to see the change in that young man because of a terrible event that happened to him is just amazing. But what it tells us is this: we don't have to live in communities that are plagued by violence. We don't have to put up with that. We choose to do that. Many people in our communities today choose to allow it to occur. And a lot of it is because of what Smurf was talking about, is this culture or understanding of anti-snitching. And in reality, what you're doing is you're empowering the criminals. You're empowering the criminals to take over your neighborhood, to harm your families, to destroy the enjoyment that you deserve in the areas that you live. And we can look at neighborhoods all over this region. And obviously all of us here, being honest with each other, there's neighborhoods that have historically been challenged. And I can tell you, we've worked hard in some of those neighborhoods along with some of the people that are here today, and they are changing. Those neighborhoods are changing because people in those neighborhoods have said, we've had enough. And we're going to work with the police, we're going to partnership with the police, and we're going to do what we need to do to make our communities better for our lives and for our children's lives. And one of the things that I am very, very passionate about is making Charleston a better place for these kids that are all around here today. Teenagers, young kids, because they deserve to grow up in a city and in a country where they don't have to worry about every time they walk out of their house, somebody's going to drive by and shoot them. They don't deserve to grow up in a community where the heroes are the drug dealers or the guys that have several murders that they have not been convicted of. And there are communities around us, they are the heroes, because they go into the parks and they give the kids candy, they give them ice cream, they give them money. And I'm telling you that if we don't change that, we're going to have a whole nother generation of this violence. And what I'm afraid of, is, from what I'm seeing, is that the violent criminals in our communities are getting younger and younger and younger. And we're doing a lot of things to try to intervene in that. We're doing all kinds of community engagement. We're doing a lot of camps that we do for elementary and middle school kids. We're starting some additional programs this year where we're bringing in the school districts to work with us on personal and social responsibility so that we can teach values. But I can take a kid and spend all summer with them, spend 8-10 hours a day with them. If they leave me and go back into a home environment where they don't get that same kind of nurturing, supportive, and loving, caring atmosphere, we're going to continue to see the things that we see today. So what I'm asking everybody that I possibly can is this. I don't want you to put yourself in danger. I don't want to put yourself in jeopardy. There are all kinds of different ways, though, for you to communicate with us. We have texting, we've got email, you can call anonymously and give information to the Consolidated Dispatch. Project Unity now has an email site that you can go to and provide information. Write a note and send it in. Don't sign it. Send it to me personally, and I can assure you that that information will get where it needs to go. So what we've got to do is we've got to understand that the only way that we're going to make change is if we work together. And Smurf said a lot of things that I can't say. And I'm realistic about that. Because if I said some of the things he said, I probably wouldn't be working here anymore. But they're true. We've got to get beyond thinking about things as those police officers and those community members. The thing I stress to my officers is this is not a us against them mentality. This is a we. We have got to work together. And we're doing a lot of things that you're going to see and hear about coming up where we're going to be in the community more. We're going to do even more things than we're doing now. And we're going to continue to build those relationships, because what we've got to do is we've got to build trust. You've got to have faith in me, and I've got to have faith in you. And that's what a real partnership is all about. And what I'm trying to build is that when we have events or when we have incidents, instead of people jumping out there and making comments or making assumptions, let's sit down and actually talk about what's going on, what the facts are, and what we can do together to make things better. People make mistakes. Police officers make mistakes. Police officers do things that are wrong. And when they do, I'm the first person that wants to make sure that that person is not in my department or in my profession anymore. I can assure you of that. But I need your help. I need you to participate. I need you to be involved. And I need you to continue to help me by providing honest, candid feedback about things that we're doing well in your communities and about things that we need to do differently. And one of the things that I think that we're doing really well right now with our partners in the community is we're tackling a very dangerous epidemic that's happening in our communities. And if we don't fix it, that little lady right there is going to continue to be plagued by domestic violence. And when we talk about domestic violence, that's all we've done for a lot of years. We've talked about it. We haven't taken any action to change it. To change the culture, to change the behavior of men and women who participate in domestic violence, to support victims who live daily in fear. One of the things that I say at every event like this, and I know Butch and probably some of the other people get tired of hearing this, many of us live in communities where if there's a violent crime that happens or if there's a situation that occurs that really brings fear to our communities, we get all concerned about that. The possibility of becoming a victim. Everybody that lives in any city in the country constantly thinks about what is going to happen if I become a victim. We turn on the news every night, we open the newspaper, we see about people getting shot sitting at stoplights. We see people getting murdered in their communities. We see people getting assaulted, and that brings on fear, because when we talk about reducing crime, we also talk about reducing fear that crime creates, because that is just as debilitating as a violent crime. Now think about this. We can all sit back and think about what it would be like to be a victim, or what it would be like if we have a violent crime occur in our neighborhood. What if you lived in a home that every day, you didn't have to think about whether or not there was going to be the potential of a crime happening in your neighborhood? What you had to worry about was when that crime was going to happen in your home, when it was going to happen against you, when it was going to happen against your children. And that's what people who are constantly victims of domestic violence live in every day. And what we're trying to do this year in South Carolina is we're trying to stop talking about what we need to do, and we're trying to get some action to occur. The Senate has passed a bill that I think is a very good bill. It addresses a lot of the issues that have been wanting in terms of domestic violence reform in South Carolina. The House of Representatives are now debating a bill which has a lot of good things in it. I hope and encourage them to look at the Senate bill and try to find compromise where we can put this gun component back in the House bill that has been taken out. Because no matter how well we educate, no matter how many years we add on to sentences, the research tells us the majority of women that are killed in South Carolina every year are killed by a handgun. And it's not the gun that does the killing, but when you have any situation, and I say this all the time, it's not just about domestic violence. Anytime you have a gun that's introduced into a combative or some type of confrontational situation, the potential for things to go very, very wrong increases exponentially. And I understand that there are people who are concerned about Second Amendment rights. I am a Second Amendment right proponent. I support it. I have been in professions my entire adult life where I was required to carry a firearm. I understand all of that. I also understand that if you are so concerned about losing your Second Amendment right in this particular situation, all you have to do is not assault your partner. And you will keep your Second Amendment rights.
Real simple.
So what I am encouraging every one of you, I'm encouraging my friends in the legislature as well as those who support this, to make it known to anybody that you possibly can that domestic violence is a scourge on our community today, not only for the victims of those violent acts, but for the children who are daily exposed to violence, which is not only going to harm them today, but it's going to create another generation where, just like Smurf was talking about, we teach children not to like police officers. We're teaching children how to treat one another. We're teaching little girls and little boys what relationships should be like. And that is so wrong, because what we're doing by exposing them to domestic violence over and over and over again is telling them that that is normal behavior. And I am here to tell you today that that is not normal behavior. There is no woman, there is no man, there is no child that should grow up in an environment where violence is the way you resolve problems. We have to change it. We've got to start at home. We've got to start in our communities, and we've got to start in the State House. And I certainly hope that this year that we're not just going to have more talk about addressing domestic violence, but we're actually going to have action so that we can move forward with this and change South Carolina from being number 1 or number 2 every year in terms of women who are killed by their partners. And I'll close with this. we talk a lot about domestic violence and women